Hello, good morning. In today's session, we are going to discuss something on the communities. So, what exactly is a community, and why do we need it, and where do we need it, and what is the purpose? Do you need we do need it? I will try to explain with the more of the production knowledge or the real time scenario, right? But before that, what is a community, right? So, community is a attribute. Okay, so BGP has everything is related to attributes. So route is defined by their attribute. So community is one of the attribute. What kind of an attribute it is? It is an optional attribute. Okay. So BGP is what kind of an attribute? It is an optional attribute. The next is it a mandatory or optional? Right. So it's an optional attribute. It's a transitive or non-transitive. It's a transitive. If it's go to here, it can go to up to there also, right? So that is a transitive until unless it's not defined by any policy or the name. So BGP is a attribute as an optional attribute. Sorry, community is an optional attribute of a BGP as transitive one. So broadly, communities are divided into two part. One is a well-known communities, the other is a custom. Well-known and a custom. Okay. So what is a well-known? In well-known, we have a no export, no advertise, no export, and sub confidential. So what is a no export? In the no export, it is a restrict to the AS. So community is not going to the outside the AS. No advertise, it is not even going to the any kind of a neighbor, BGP, EBGP neighbor or IBGP. It's a block all. And no export sub confederation is something which is not going to be the outside of the sub confederation. It's a limit of the confederation. After that, the other category is a custom. Okay, one is a well known, the other is a custom. In custom, it's defined by the administrator from the service provider end as well as from the enterprise network end, or it's right. So if the service provider has already defined some community list, so enterprise guy customer can utilize that list. Okay, and that is a very important concept. So here we are more focused on the custom community, right? So what is a why do we need it? So community is just like you have a route. Suppose you this is giving some route. Okay, 5 or 7 routes over here. So you tag this route with something called the community, right? So once the route will reach to this AS, then it will have a tag with this. So that is the uh, kind of a community. It's like a sticking and a sticker to the route. It's just tagging, right? You have 100 of the or routes or 100 of the objects. You just put some sticker to identify those objects. That's a sticker, right? Basically it's a sticker. You just put a sticker on it to identify for you your side or your end. Okay, so in our case what we have one of the customer one router over the AS100, and the other we have a customer partner in the 500. Okay, so R1 customer have two link, right, with an AS service provider one and a service provider two. Service provider two link is what is a healthy link, right, and this is a cheap link. And the customer R1 don't want to use this link because it's a cheap link. It's and the customer want to use it as a backup link. So whatever the traffic has to go from the R1 customer to the customer partner, it has to go through R1 to R2 to R3 and R4 to R5, and the return traffic is also something like the R5 to the R4, R3 to the R2, right? This is the if R5 want to access some application on the customer R1, it don't needs to go from the black to the red and here, right? Because it's only the one hop away. The ask us or the requirement is instead of using this link, this is a very cheap link or this is a very slow link. The customer partner will go to the AS400, from the 400 to 300, 300 to 2, and to the R1. Okay, so that is a need. So how you could do it? It's a two way. Either you will send an AS prepend, right? When you are advertising your route from the customer end, so you can just go say the neighbor, okay, uh, uh, prepend this path, right? I don't want to use this path, so prepend this path. So you have a AS 100, so prepend it 5 times, 100, 100, 100, 100, right? Just hold on. So I'm prepending it with a 5 time 100. Okay, I'm prepending with a 5 time 100. So when there is a traffic coming, when there is a traffic, the R1 is receiving from here, and it is a receiving from R2, right? So the what the traffic would see that, okay, this is a longer path, 1 and 6 AS, and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 AS only. So this would be preferable. The blue one would be the preferable by setting the AS prepend outside while while uh, s- setting a network command, right, at the time of the root injection, right? So we are just prepending at the 5 times as path prepend outside. So in that case, this route will be selected, the blue route would be selected. Now, but the ask sometime what this service provider do, they don't want to have this all this prepended as path, right? They block this prepend as path, they don't want this. So in that case, if you're not left with a AS path prepend for the incoming traffic, right, and med would also not be as expected because it's coming from the different neighbors. So what is an other option? Usually what is in the production, right? In the production, you can ask, can you ask, call to the service provider, and can you ask to set this route for the local preference, right? Because local preference is like something for the exit of the route. Make this is a 200 and make it 100. And if the traffic has to be for the all the route hosted on the over R1, it will take over this path instead of this path. Can you, if you make a call to the service provider, they will say, no, I will not make a mess my network, it will have a lot of an issue. For every customer I could not set it. I have thousand of customer, and every customer if I dial up, I could not do it. What I can have, I have a community list for the every customer. What I have a community list for the every customer. I will give you the community list, you tag your route, and accordingly the things will work. Okay, so here what you have, the on the service provider end, so router map apply permit 10, match community 100, set local preference 50. So we are setting local preference 50, right? And IP community standard com 10 is the 400 to 500, and this is the com permit 400 to 500. This is okay. So we have a route map, in which a route map we are matching this community list, and we are setting the local preference 50. Okay, so this is the community. For this community tag, we are setting the local preference 50, and router BGP 400, and neighbor is towards the 100. Okay, and we are setting the inside route map inside. Okay, the next is a route map for this BGP 100. There is one neighbor over going this side, one neighbor going this side. Okay, then address IPv4. Let's focus on 2.1 on this neighbor. This is a fine. Activate route map set community permit 10. Okay, okay, this is just a neighbor. Just hold on. Okay, for this neighbor, there is one command, activate. Okay, that's set. In our this route map, what we are just, we have to route map set community permit 10, set community 400 500. And this set community 400 500, as who has given this is given by the work service provider, 400 to 500. Okay, with the help of this route map, we are sending the community outside, right? Neighbor 111 route map. So whatever the routes present over here, right, we are tagging every route. Suppose I have 100 routes or services hosted in this network. So I'm just tagging all those services with the community 400 to 500. 400 is to 500, right? So whenever the route receive to the AS 400, it will see, okay, I received this route AS 400 with the community of the 400.5, 400 is to 500, right? 400 is to 500, 400 semicolon 500. So what it will do, whenever it see that I received a route with the 400, with the 50, right, 400 semicolon 50, it will set a local preference of the 50, right? So once it receive the route 400 semicolon 50, it will set a local preference 50 on this link. Okay, so once this is set to the local preference 50, and this was at by default 100, then the traffic would easily flow from the blue line. Okay, the traffic would easily flow from the blue line, and this is a backup, because what is a local preference? Higher is preferable, local preference. So this is a by default 100. We have, what we have done it over here, we have just make it a 50. Okay, and this, whenever the traffic is coming from here, it will check the route, the best route is from here, because the local preference is 100 from this exit, and local preference is for the outgoing traffic 100, right? And this is for the incoming, oh sorry, this is for the 50. So it will always choose the blue pass. So this is a kind of and this list could be a, it's not like we have just only 100, there could be a permit 400, 500, there's a thousand of the lines in this community 100, right? There's a thousand of the statement for this route, you can set something else, right? The set local preference could be a different for the other stuff. Match community com 200, set local preference something other, like this is an IP community list standard com 100. You can define one more community list 200, where you are permitting something like a 400.500, and the setting some local preference as a different stuff, right? So it depends on to the site to site, customer to the customer, but that is how the local we with the we can leverage the community, and we can use the local preference, AS path prepend, etc. Okay, thank you.